We are going to read chapter 10, the last chapter. This is the chapter where we find out the story of Squanto and the Pilgrims as the kids put on their wonderful play. We find out who the Rube Mom is and even the triplets' names. I'm so excited, aren't you? And the kids talk about their vocabulary words. While Mrs. Pigeon played a rhythmic drumming sort of music on the piano, Gooney Bird Green danced from the door to the front of the multipurpose room. Her dance was a combination of shuffles, taps, and twirls, with an occasional pause for a hop. She was wearing fuzzy bedroom slippers, her long velvet skirt, a flowered Hawaiian shirt, and a top hat, onto which she had attached a blue feather. Remember, Gooney Bird likes to make her own costumes. The audience applauded at her entrance. She ended her dance and bowed dramatically, steadying her hat with one hand. "I am Squanto," Gooney Bird Green announced, "and these," she gestured to the other children, and they entered the room, marching, wearing their costumes of cardboard hats and headbands and belt buckles. "These are the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. They are Squanto's friends," she added. So here's a picture of Gooney Bird, and here are the boys and girls in their costumes. The Pilgrims and Native Americans stood in a semicircle behind Gooney Bird. They all adjusted their headgear and then stood with their hands at their sides, wiggling their eyebrows to hold up their hats and headbands, which were already slipping forward on their foreheads. "Now, in honor of Thanksgiving, I'm going to tell you a story," Gooney Bird said. Miss Pigeon played a ta-da chord on the piano. The audience clapped and laughed. All of them already knew, because they had been told by their children, what a good storyteller Gooney Bird Green was. Even Barbara Green, Gooney Bird's mom, clapped and laughed. From behind his headband, which had settled across his nose, Malcolm muttered, "I hope they don't clap too loud and wake those triplets." Gooney Bird took a few deep breaths, adjusted her posture, and began. "I am not the actual Squanto," she said. "The real Squanto was a Patuxet Indian who was born in a village near where the Pilgrims would land. But when he was born, they hadn't landed yet. Now he learned to speak English from some early settlers. He helped the settlers in many ways. He was a very helpful guy. When some of them went back to England, they invited him to go along. His mother didn't want him to. I can understand that. My mom wouldn't want me to go off to another country. She would say I was too young. We probably would have had a big argument about it." "Oops," Gooney Bird said. "That was an authorial intrusion. I didn't mean to do that. It's boring. Sorry." But Squanto went anyway. This was way back in the 1600s. Squanto is dead now. I am not the real Squanto. I am an imitation. Barry, what does imitation mean? Something made to be as much as possible like something else. It's like a fake. You are a fake Squanto. Barry bowed and stepped back. "Thank you, Barry," Gooney Bird said. To the audience, she explained, "Mrs. Pigeon has taught us all to use dictionaries. We have all gotten very good at it for second graders because we didn't underestimate ourselves." "Underestimate? Beanie, what does that mean?" Beanie stepped forward. She stumbled a bit because her hat was over her eyes. Then she righted herself, stood straight, and said, "Underestimate, to judge things as less than their real value." She curtsied and whispered, "Like I underestimated the bigness of my hat." The audience laughed and clapped. Gooney Bird continued the story. "Well, after a while, Squanto got tired of being in England. It was noisy and everyone went shopping all the time. He was homesick. So he cajoled a sea captain into taking him back to America. Felicia Ann, with her pilgrim bonnet completely covering her eyes and nose, stepped forward shyly. "Cajole, to persuade someone to do something by flattery or gentle argument," she said in her small voice. The audience clapped. Gooney Bird continued. Squanto traveled around for a while, being helpful because he was a helpful guy. He was an interpreter between the settlers and the Native Americans. Malcolm, interpreter. Malcolm unbent his green feather, which had bent, straightened his headband, and wiggled his fingers the way he always did when he was nervous. He hesitated a moment, thinking. Then he said, "Interpreter, someone who translates something from one language to another and helps people understand each other." The audience clapped. "Shh," Malcolm told them, with his fingers to his lips. "Don't clap too loud, you'll wake the triplets." "But suddenly," said Gooney Bird. The children smiled when they heard that word, suddenly. "A bad ship captain tricked him into going on his ship, but it was a big scam. They made Squanto a captive, a prisoner, and took him to Spain. The captives all were sold as slaves. Now this made Squanto pretty mad. But he was indefatigable." Gooney Bird grinned. Tyrone, his headband completely covered in beads with 2 feathers attached, strutted forward proudly. "Indefatigable," he proclaimed, never showing any sign of getting tired. "Thank you, Tyrone," said Gooney Bird after the applause. "I'm going to flash forward a bit now. That's a thing authors do." After a long time, Squanto finally made his way home. He had been gone for years, and when he finally got home, he found that his village was gone. All his people had died, that he was the last of his tribe. It was very sad. But he became friends with the great chief Massasoit from another tribe, and after a while he met the Pilgrims, who had just arrived. So he had some new friends, and they all hung out together. And Squanto taught them how to grow food, remember? The Pilgrims' lives in America would have been a fiasco if good Indians like Squanto had not helped them. "Chelsea, fiasco?" Chelsea waved to her mother in the front row. "Hi, Mom." "Fiasco, a total failure." Chelsea curtsied and gave a thumbs-up sign. Gooney Bird finished her story. "Well, Squanto had gotten lots of new clothes in England, and he learned to dance. The end." Gooney Bird bowed, twirled in a circle, and did a small bit of a hula. All of my story was absolutely true, except maybe the part about learning to dance. "But I think he probably did," Gooney Bird said. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering, and from the back of the room, when the applause quieted, the sounds of babies came from this huge stroller. Malcolm pulled his headband down over his eyes and groaned, "Oh, no." "I have a couple more things to say," Gooney Bird announced. The first Thanksgiving is a really good story because it tells about people becoming friends and being helpful to each other and being thankful. So some of the second graders want to say what they are thankful for. Nicholas said loudly, "The Muriel, I got to paint the forest part. And Mrs. Pigeon, she stretches our skills." Next, Gooney Bird said, "Keiko." "My family," Keiko said. "And Mrs. Pigeon, she makes me smile." Ben hopped up and down. "My fixed broken arm." He held it up. "And Mrs. Pigeon, I like her songs. And she lets us change socks." "One more," Gooney Bird said, "and then we can have our refreshments." Malcolm sighed. Slowly he walked forward. He looked toward the big stroller. "Okay, I guess I'm thankful for my triplets," he said after a moment. "Their names are Taylor, Schuyler, and Tierney. And 2 are boys and 1's a girl, but I don't know which is which. And I'm thankful for Mrs. Pigeon because she is very calm even when I'm not. And I'm thankful for the room, Mother, because she brought cupcakes, and I'm hungry." From the back of the room, a voice called out, "I didn't bring them. I provided them. There is a difference." Then, very slowly, an elderly woman stood, lifting herself up by the arms of her wheelchair. Next to her, a nurse reached out to steady the chair. "Here's what I'm thankful for," the old woman continued. I'm thankful that Gooney Bird Green called me on the telephone and asked me to be the room mother. I haven't been room mother for 35 years. I was room mother when my daughter Patsy was in the 2nd grade. It was fun then, and it will be fun now. And mostly, I'm thankful that Patsy became a teacher. It makes me proud. Who is this woman? She lifted one hand and waved to Miss Pigeon, seated at the piano. Mrs. Pigeon dabbed her eyes with a hanky and waved back. Hi, Mom, she said with a smile. The room mother was Miss Pigeon's mom. And don't forget, Gooney Bird Green, the room mother said, you promised me a special song. Gooney Bird looked at Miss Pigeon. Class? Miss Pigeon said, and she played the first chord. Bum! Room mother, the children sang. The end. We have got to the end of Gooney Bird and the Room Mother. Wonderful book. Yay. And look at all the words. Some of the words like the kids learned. Good job, guys.